Are we operational? Great. Okay. I'd like to call the workshop of the Select Board for July 23rd to order here tonight.
Gotta get you a gavel.
First of all, I'd like to welcome all of you that came tonight. This is a bit of an experiment. We've never done this before. So it'll be a learning experience for all of us, and depending on how we all feel about it, we can continue this as an annual tradition. Introductions: Mark Kelly and Jeff Hamilton are two of the Select Board members. Two could not make it this evening because they're actually on vacations, Deborah Hall and Ken McKinley, excuse me, who is our vice chair. Let me give a little bit of background and overview of how I sort of picture this meeting going tonight. There'll just be a few welcoming comments and some explanations. I'll try to give you a little bit of background on what's going on around the town, more specifically our library, which is really the biggest project facing the town right now. But I really then just simply want to open this up to the audience and really hear what you folks think, and if we can answer questions, we will. If we can't, we can find the answers for you. This came about, this meeting, because I have a friend and a neighbor who's here tonight who last summer sort of corralled me and told me that in her experience, several other New England towns have meetings where people who are non-voting taxpayers can come and meet with the councilman, the select board, or whatever, just to get to know each other. And that seemed to make sense to me. You know, our country fought a war over 200 years ago over taxation without representation, and
They're still fighting it.
I know. And although I don't want to get into that tonight, you know, we recognize, at least I recognize, that you know, there is a little bit of an inequity there. So I think the more we can communicate and everything, I think it's better for our town. So we'll do that tonight. I looked over the list of folks who we sent letters out to, and I think most of it was really individuals. But one thing that surprised me was that I would say half of the people on this list are from Maine, and many of them are from our very local communities: Camden, Rockport, Lincolnville, Hope, Appleton. So they own property here in Rockport, but they only live a few miles away. I expected most of this list to be our folks that come from Texas, Florida, Pennsylvania. So at any rate, I just found that a little bit interesting. So again, you know, I realize that a lot of people pay taxes here. They aren't able to vote here, but there's no question that people that own businesses, even if they live in another town, and they're open for us during the winter, and then the folks that come here during the summer contribute so much to the fabric of the community that we call Rockport. The activities that go on during the summer and everything that we all partake in, it just makes it a very nice little town. Ken McKinley, who is our vice chair, actually had some comments. He couldn't be here, and I'm going to ask Rick Bates, our town manager, and I apologize. I think most of you know Rick. I'm going to ask him to read that just to save my voice.
Okay, great, thank you. I just wanted to make a comment that, you know, it's great to see so many people here. It's great to see people here without torches and pitchforks. That's always a good thing, too. These are Ken's comments. Welcome to all this evening. I'm sorry to miss the meeting. Rockport has a significant number of non-resident taxpayers who of state laws are obligated to pay taxes on their property in Rockport, but cannot participate in town meeting or vote on town elections. Nevertheless, it is important to recognize the contribution you folks make to our town. Not only do you pay the required property taxes, but many of you also contribute your time, energy, and resources in other ways, supporting local businesses and community organizations. These contributions do not go unnoticed, and I believe it is important for all to recognize that you are part of our town. This meeting is an opportunity for all of you to communicate with the Select Board, voice your concerns, tell us what you like about Rockport, and tell us how you think things might be improved. Given the contributions you make in the spirit of true democracy, it is only fitting that we take time to consider your input regarding town affairs. Thank you very much for coming this evening, and thank you for your contributions to our town.
So I think what I'll do, just to sort of get the ball rolling, is we do have a couple of letters that were sent here by folks who could not be here. So why don't I just sort of read this, and then we can throw everything open and start to get people's opinions. The first here is a letter from Dorsey Gardner, who lives up on Mechanic Street there. And he says that he and his wife will be out of town for the meeting, but let me give you my thoughts. He's ecstatic that the library will stay where it is, never understood why it couldn't be rehabbed economically. I'll bet I could do it, and it would be simple compared with rehabbing 162 Russell, which is the old CMCA building. If you must have a new building, it should be left where it is, a keystone to our lovely village. Point number 2. Don't understand how anyone could spend $33 million on a new middle school. My son, who founded a charter school, just built a new school for 400 students at a total cost of $17 million. Number 3, as a result of Trump's new tax law, the after-tax cost of my real estate taxes in Rockport has increased by $20,000. As you are aware, a very small percentage of Rockport non-residents are saddled with disproportional percentage of property taxes in Rockport. A large majority of these non-residents will never be a burden to the generous healthcare system in Maine, nor will we send children to Rockport schools or take advantage of the state of Maine low tuition privileges. Maine is one of the highest tax states in the nation, and Rockport must be one of the most unfriendly towns to non-residents. The ultimate insult is that when I inquired if it was possible to be buried in the town cemetery, presumably he meant Seaview, I was told that the cemetery was only available to town residents. I see that we have some new selectmen, and I hope they plan to roll back the tax rate or assessments on highly taxed properties. So, you know, I understand all of that. I think that in response, one thing that we did do this winter, one of our non-resident taxpayers commented that they have a mooring in Rockport Harbor. We were charging a higher fee for non-residents than for taxpayers. And indeed, it seems to me that if you pay taxes in the town of Rockport, whether you live here or not, the price of a mooring should be the same. I mean, that just seemed fair. So we took that to the Harbor Committee. They agreed in the Select Board, and even though it did cost us a little bit of revenue from the harbor, it did seem to be fair. So, you know, we do try to keep the playing field level where and when we can. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just sort of work the room a little bit, take your questions, rather than have you come up to the microphones.
There's a Mike Wright Dorsey, though, and just let him know that a little more than a decade ago, I bought 4 lots in the cemetery. Paid for, done.
Well, why don't you get to using them?
They're not done yet.
I'm I'm sorry?
It's not done yet.
What's not done?
Not you.
The use of the lots in the cemetery,
still vertical.
because you're still vertical.
Yeah, let's not hurry that along then. It's okay.
Doug, real quick, does everybody know this is live streamed?
Oh, yes, let me mention that too. This meeting is being live streamed, which means that people who have a computer can log on and follow the proceedings.
There's 7 people watching now.
And we hope that doesn't change everyone's behavior.
Oh, that's what I'm
Saying.
Probably why you do
So
it.
if people at home do have questions, they'll be able to write in, and Rick can interrupt us and read them. So, at this point, do any of you folks have questions or comments that we can do? And they're all over. So one thing I would ask, because there are people at home, would you just state your name and where you live in town, just so we all know?
So do you want me to sit or stand or?
Whatever you want to do.
Bob Jackson, Rockport. I've got 2 questions, but starting off with a little bit of background. In the last decade, I've paid real close to six figures in taxes, consumed not many services. We don't have kids in schools. But yet, in my view, let me also start out by saying that I appreciate what you're doing here. I think it's a move in the right direction, and I hope it bears some fruit. But let me start off by saying that notwithstanding all that I've said, I believe I've been discriminated against. You're kind of you're in a way. But let me give you 2 specific examples. At a recent town meeting, I was not allowed to speak. I was prevented from speaking until the default was changed by vote of the town residents to let me speak. So in other words, it made it really clear that I was second class. Now my question is, why is that? Yeah, you can answer, but I've got 2 questions.
Was that at the June meeting?
Wait, when was it, Rick? Last year or the year before? It
Year
doesn't
before,
matter.
yeah.
It's a town law, policy, something that,
Right.
that non-voters cannot speak.
They typically vote.
Non-residents.
They typically vote at the beginning of the meeting whether to allow that or not, because I'm not a resident either. So they have to vote to
Right,
allow
but we start off being clearly
myself-
labeled as second-class citizens.
Yeah. But that's the way that town meetings work, across the state typically.
No, but you can change,
You
or
could.
can you change that, and will you change that?
I don't know. We could look into it. I've been on the board for a year, so, be honest with you, I just don't really know.
Okay, the second question is,
Worth looking into.
why are we not permitted to vote?
Well, I think that has to do with state law.
Yeah, you would
Is
be.
it? Are you sure? Because I understand that it's possible in certain political subdivisions to vote, notwithstanding the fact you voted in another political subdivision. I'm not talking about voting in multiple national elections or even state elections. I just want to know why I can't vote in Rockport. That's it. That narrow question. Why not?
We can find out for you. It's a
Okay.
good question, I don't know.
Okay, now let me kind of tie this together with kind of a summary comment. One of the best things that could happen to everybody in this room, almost everybody, is for real estate values to go up. And not only that, real estate values on the higher end homes, because for you, it increases the tax base. For me, it means I can sell my home for more later on. So it's good for both of us. But the image is the Aways are second-class citizens. The Rockport doesn't really feel all that great about them. They can't really talk unless you're allowed to. They're not allowed to vote. So why don't you fix that? Why don't you change both of those things, and then prospective buyers that fund home prices will be more willing to buy, and everybody benefits. And there's no skin off your nose. But I mean, whatever. You get the idea. Free. Okay, so you got 2 questions. You can handle either one the way you want.
So, Mr. Jackson, I was trying to differentiate between the two. And I think I understand what you're saying about the voting portion of it. I mean, you're saying to be allowed to vote on the monetary items, but not necessarily,
Jurisdictions do allow.
right, okay. All
No, I think I should be able to vote for who the selectman is.
right, that's, I
I
just,
mean, basically all town issues, I think I should be able to vote.
okay.
There's no-
I'm just trying to get a little clearer picture for Rick to be able to,
Yep.
And my question, I really don't want to hear about the law, I want to know what your position is. What do you think is right?
Well, you have to care about the law.
No, but because, no, what'll happen is people will say there's some law over there, and I don't buy that. I just want to know what the attitude here is about the way ways get treated.
Well, your legal opinion for a few $1,000.
Well, why haven't we gotten one?
How many non-voting people are there? I'm sorry, I'm Holly Boyd Ruffin.
I don't think it's on, anyway.
This is,
Oh, it
the
is?
green light is,
It's on-
just hold it close up there.
How many non-voting residents are there?
The list that we sent out was roughly to, I believe, roughly 500 people.
Wow.
Received it, and again, like I say, I was surprised that half of those are people that live in very close proximity to here.
We never got the letter, I'll tell
Yeah,
you
we
that.
didn't get it.
Yes, and I'm going to apologize for that. Again, this is the first time we've tried this. You know, how do you reach out to people whose tax mailing address is somewhere else? They may have their mail forwarded, it may not. You know, we tried to publicize it as best we could through various public notices. I had my friends and neighbors try to tell their friends and neighbors, so you're right, there's no question. Now, of the list that we sent out, there were only a few that I highlighted as being undeliverable. You know, but again, that doesn't necessarily mean that somebody who's down in Florida or Texas or Pennsylvania didn't receive it. But this is an experiment, and, you know, if it goes on longer, you know, we can certainly hope to improve the rate of effective mailings to people.
How did you determine it about whether the tax bill's mailed somewhere else?
I think, and Rick will
It's-
say more, but I think the tax assessor just sort of went through the tax rolls and made that determination.
We can sort it by, you know, a bunch of different fields, and so the way we sorted it was based on where the town, where the mail goes. And Doug is right, that's, one of the challenges is that many people, we're sending it out to wherever the tax bill goes, and I'm assuming everybody gets their tax bill that they love to get. So we're sending it to where the tax bill goes, and in some cases, it may go to a lawyer, it may go to a trust, it may go to, who knows? So wherever the that's the only address that we have for folks, is wherever the tax bill goes. So that's what we're trying to work with. We could if we had it planned enough ahead of time.
We're gonna have a trouble if people are not using the microphone so the folks at home can hear. So let's try to do that. You know, I'd prefer to have a freewheeling discussion, yes, but I think we do need to try to help out the folks that are listening from home. So we did.
To tie into Bob's question about voting, no, if 500,
And 549.
no, 550,
No, 549.
They didn't get a letter.
I know.
but 549, and I'm going to guess that those are all of voting ages. What is the population of Rockport?
3,200.
That's a huge number to tie into Bob.
Oh yeah, there's no question about it. You know what? We're
We have another significant problem, and that is, A, getting them to vote, and B, are they here on election day? The answer is no.
Got absentee ballots, right?
well.
Anyway, it's a great question.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah, absolutely, and that's why we're here. So,
Okay. Bruce? Yes. Yes, you do.
I'll just echo Bruce Westfall of C Street. I'll simply echo what Mr. Jackson said, because the meeting started saying that we're called non-resident taxpayers. We're called
Yeah, no, it's, the mic isn't,
we're called non-resident taxpayers as opposed to, I guess, resident taxpayers. And earlier in the meeting said we are not allowed to participate or be represented in town voting and town decisions, period. It's 549 out of 3,200. That's about 18, 20, almost 20%.
Yeah, that's a significant number, which, you know, it's one of the reasons we're having this meeting tonight.
So when you say 500, I can talk louder.
well, the people in the audience, out on,
My name's Judy Burgess, and we're non-resident taxpayers. When you say 549, you're just saying the house. That
Right.
doesn't
There
say
could be
how many
two-
people are in the house, or are you counting people in the house too?
just,
You are correct. There could be several people looking at the list.
Yes.
In fact, you're welcome to look at the list. so.
I know.
I don't know that the numbers matter, it's the principle of the thing. Do you believe that we should be a second-class citizen and it should take a special vote to even let us talk? And do you believe we should not be allowed to vote on town matters? That's the question. Principle.
Right, and my leaning.
By the way, excuse me, I know you're a good guy. I'm just trying to get to the bottom of this.
Yeah, well, again, my leaning is that, yes, if you pay taxpayers, you should have some recourse to a say in the town. You know, we have to look at it with the lawyers, find out what the law is and everything else, but actions speak louder than words. And again, I hope that this meeting tonight is sort of a small first step to hearing about these things, and then we can take them back and look into it a little bit further. But yeah, I mean, as I said, you know, we fought a war over taxation without representation. Now, you know, there are going to be people that say, well, if you own a second home somewhere else, that's where you're registered to vote, and if you want the principal, you know, you're going to vote in both places. So there's a lot of things that have to be ironed out. Or there will be people to say, well, if you want to vote in Rockport, you know, why don't you live here for 6 months and a day? So my inclination is to say, yeah, you should have some right of representation if you pay taxes.
So my response on that would be where there's a will, there's a way. In the town meetings, it's very effective to separate the aways from the voters. You know, you have a card.
Well, at
and
least
there
we
you go. It
don't
just
make
works.
you sit on the other
And
side.
so we're back to what's the will? Are we trying, is this on purpose, or we just haven't thought about it?
Oh, while you take a drink. One of the things that we're trying to do, and Doug is going to be doing, I assume, later, is to reach out to the business owners as well. So we're trying to reach out not only to you guys, but to the business people, because both of you at times don't get heard from, you know, for various reasons. So we're trying to be more open about how we do things. So this is an experiment, as Doug said. So we're trying to make what we're doing tonight better going forward. So we're looking, we're looking for input. Yeah, no, I agree.
I'm Gary Dunn. I spent about 4 months here, so I'm not qualified, if you will. But I have some familiarity with these issues because the Cape Cod is a prime for that example. Dennis said at the peak of the season had like 50,000 people, and then when the curtains go up at the end of the year, they had like 10,000 people. It was 50 to 10, and it's difficult to manage a town like that because you don't know what the exact demand for, you know, police or whatever are going to be year to year. And they buck this, they've addressed it in several ways. One is that they have a minimum stay is required. You can't come in for a month and expect to participate in the management of the town. I mean, that's unrealistic. But you get 40–50% of the time, the assumption is that you're doing something that you planted there, and you bring money into the state and so forth, and you can be more flexible. And I think we have to be more flexible because, you know, there's what part of that study shows that for every 5 people that you pick, you know, one will make a meeting and four won't. And then conversely, with people who live there, you know, it's 1 to 4, so it's you know, you can have some representation, but you can't have it all. And it's not gonna be equally weighted because it's just not realistic or equally weighted. But, you know, the issues with taxation and representation are just as real here. And I agree with a lot of what Bob said, right? I think, you know, it's not quite that simple. You have to get a matrix of you know, determining, you know, issues that you can come to meeting with.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Thank you. I'm Linda Toomey, Beauchamp Street. First, I want to say thank you for doing this. Knowing how it operates in other towns, Cape, for example, it's a chance for the people who love the town, that's why we're here, to learn more about what is going on in the town, but also what I would like to see it go forward, and I realize it has to adapt, but it's also a chance for us all to get to know each other. And from my understanding, it also evolved into voting residents were also invited, so the town could get to know each other in a confrontational way, a way to just say, these are the things that concern us. We love the town as much as you do, and we'd like to know how we can help, what we can do, but also you need to hear our concerns. And I think my question is, if you could explain a little bit about the three major things, that are going to impact all of us, residents, non-residents, in terms of taxes, and those would be the 2 schools and the library, and what you foresee in terms of the impact on all of the residents of Rockport, not just the non-voting ones. Thank you.
And don't forget the septic sewer system in Camden.
Yes. Let me, I'm certainly not a tax expert, not a businessman by training or anything, so this is not my strong suit. But one thing that I became very aware of once I was elected was how the taxes, our tax bills are split up. And I think most of you probably know this because you keep an eye on this sort of thing, but basically 67% of our tax bills go to the school, okay? And that number is probably going to be higher as we look at building the middle school. 7% of our tax bills goes to the county, and the county takes care of our 911 and our emergency dispatch service and whatnot. And then finally, 26% of your tax bill is actually the municipal budget that Mark and Jeff and Deborah, myself, and Ken actually have some control over. I can tell you that this year at the budget discussions, it was very contentious. Friendships were tested. Harsh words were said. In the end, well, you know, you can chuckle about it now, but it was contentious. You know, in the end, we were able to limit our municipal budget increase to 2.6%, a couple $100,000. And after I'd been through that process, and again, how difficult it was, and then I started looking at these kind of numbers, you know, I thought to myself, is it worth it? I mean, why, you know, we're arguing about $2,000 to be spent on a, you know, new trash disposal system, or $1,000 to paint some lines on the road. And I'm thinking, you know, why am I getting in arguments with my friends and colleagues and stuff when, you know, 70% of the budget is something that we have absolutely no control over? Now, one question I would have for you folks, I say we don't have any control over it because the school board is independently elected. And historically, they have always sort of had a hands-off policy. It's sort of been my impression, the short time I've been on here, that they don't really welcome any input from the select boards. But I'm starting to think, well, you know, as the elected representatives of the town, should we be a little bit more vocal when it comes to this? And so again, you know, my making this sign up here for everybody to look at is sort of the first step to remind folks, if you came to us to tell us that your taxes are too high, you're sort of at the wrong meeting. You really need to be at the school board meeting. Now, we'll do our part, and like I say, we really did this year. It was painful for me, and I'm not looking forward to next year, because I think we can keep taxes down. But, so that's my soliloquy on taxes. Someone give him, oh, wait a minute, we have a comment in the back there. Whoever has the microphone has the floor.
Patricia Kelly, I've been a resident, non-voting resident of Rockport for 23 years. I own 2 properties, and one of my neighbors is here too, and up until just recently, he's been a longtime resident, about as long as I have, and paying on 2 properties. Having said that, I got the letter in the mail, and I applaud you after all these years of stepping out and doing this, because it could go many ways. But I showed up, and I'm disappointed that more of the 549 people that you solicited did not show up. But I would like to make 2 comments about being a part-timer or somebody from away. I obviously have been here all this time because I love it. I love the town, and it's a wonderful atmosphere. Everything about it is to be applauded. The beauty and so forth, the cultural aspects of it. And I go away for 6 months, and I spread all that goodwill. I told hundreds, if not thousands of people who've never been to the coast of New England of how wonderful the coast of Maine, the mid-coast of Maine is. And that's very valuable. I'm sure I'm not the only one. And these people are going to Florida, Texas, California, and beyond. And I honestly don't have a lot of animus about what that maybe some people hold about not being able to vote. But I understand it, and I think you're making a step in the right direction. One other thing about taxpayers that don't partake in the services all year is that we don't get a break. We pay exactly whatever the assessment is on our property for 24/7, 365 days a year. And I think the fact that you obviously are understanding that there is value to having people from away, part-timers, that are not wear and tearing the roads and so forth, the school systems, but the revenue is coming in from us, and we appreciate being invited personally, and appreciate you inviting me. Funny story, anecdote here, just quick one. I had dinner with 2 neighbors of mine who just recently sold their houses, 2 different houses. And I told them about the letter, and they said, doggone it, I've been here for 35 years. Why are they just doing it now? I said, I don't know, but I'm going, and I'll come back and report to them.
Do you want to keep talking all night? Because it make my job easier. Yes, whoever has the microphone can speak. So.
All right, I'm going to change the topic completely, but anyway, I'm Leanne Dunton, live on Franklin Street for about 15 years, and spend 5 months in the summer, and then get back for Thanksgiving, Christmas, and whatnot. So we're here quite a bit. But I've been the chair in charge of town beautification for 3 years for the Rockport Garden Club. And so I'm going to talk about things that are near and dear to my heart, which I think I'm speaking to the right people here about getting these done. First, we've been pleading to have that electrical box removed right next to the Andre statue and garden that we provide, just so people know. The Rockport Garden Club does 8 sites throughout the town. We plant flowers, we water them, maintain them, and whatnot. And Andre is one of our sites. And never mind that fact, but also Andre, I have pictures of my kids when they were very little on Andre, and I took it many years later, luckily before that electrical box was put up. But, you know, never mind me again, but the fact is that we have a lot of people coming in and taking pictures of Andre the Seal statue. And it, you know, I've heard various reports. We've, you know, been told that might actually, something might happen to that. That's one. Secondly, as Doug is probably aware of, Rick is certainly, we're not allowed to hang, one of our 9th site was the flowers on the bridge, and we were no longer allowed this year to hang them.
Badly.
And that was a state law that was enforced. Apparently, it's always been there, but it was enforced because, I won't go into the details. Anyway, what I'd like the Board of Selectmen to do, please, is to find a way to put poles on either end of the bridge.
Oh, okay.
And put some hanging pots, because we pay, the Rockport Garden Club pays for to be watered and everything. We pay for all of that. And so what we are asking you, though, to do is find a way to put poles with hanging baskets on either end of the bridge. And we will supply the flowers and water them.
Great idea. Thank you.
That's a great idea.
Kind of to follow up on that a little bit too, is that one of the things I worked on this year as a personal goal was to establish a committee, Keep Rockport Beautiful.
Right.
And we do try to communicate with the garden club, and you folks do a wonderful job. There's no question about it, and we appreciate what you do. I understand about the power pedestal, and I guess there's some history. I can tell you a little bit about what I know about it, but I guess there used to be, when we put the underground power in down at the park, they needed to have somewhere to
Right.
plug in various equipment. So for some reason, that specific location was picked, and a Mugo pine was put around it to sort of hide it. And
No, the
No,
Mugo
Mugo-
pines were already there.
Oh, okay.
We located it there because it was kind of hidden by the Mugo pines, is that what they are?
Mugo pines.
Mugo pines. It was kind of hidden by the pines. And one of the reasons that it's put there is that's where the power goes underground over to the dock. So it was an easy installation without having to dig up the whole.
But there's got to be a better solution for that.
Well, there probably is, and here's the thing that we fight about at the Budget Committee, is that could probably be done. It'd probably be, people have bandied around, $10,000 to move it, and, that's fine. I understand you'd have to have an excavator. But again, we're fighting with our friends and neighbors over, $1,000 to, to paint some stripes and stuff, and, so, and
Is it possible to start a fund or something for that?
well, as you know, Andre's nose was starting
Yes.
to fall off just over the years. I hope some of you followed this in the newspaper.
The garden club
and
also
Facebook.
contributed to that as well.
$2,500. Double thank you.
Yep.
To make a long story short, Andre's nose was actually falling off, and it needed a fair amount of work to rehab it. And we found a sculptor, engineer down in Newcastle who was an expert at this sort of thing. And to make a long story short, we set up a GoFundMe campaign, and indeed, we were able to raise basically the $13,000.
I think there's pretty many people that would be willing to contribute something to that fund, because I know there's more people than, one of my neighbors is sitting next to me.
Sure.
I know she objects to it. Everybody in our street does, has mentioned it to me, can you do something about it? The other thing,
Let
Doug.
me finish one
Oh,
thought.
sorry.
So one of the principles of my Keep Rockport Beautiful is that it's pretty clear that if you're waiting for government to do something for you, you're going to be waiting a long time. That's one thing I've learned about government. That's not an excuse, but that's just the way it is. So for Keep Rockport Beautiful, one of the basic principles of that is trying to enlist a core of volunteers to come help with some of the work. And for instance, tomorrow, we're redoing the pathways right next door in Mary Lee Park. And the Public Works Department will bring the heavy equipment in the morning, but we're hoping to have volunteers in the afternoon to help put down the fabric and spread the pea stone. So yeah, I mean, you know, if groups of people want to band together, you know, and help do things, you know, great.
Well, the other problem with that electric box being right there, Doug, is the food trucks that are parked right next to Andre and the garden that's around Andre. They're right there next to.
If we could pile in.
Yeah, a little insight as to stuff that's going on that
Okay, great,
will help you.
Some of us are trying to help figure out how to make that all happen
great.
sooner than later.
Yeah.
And we've reviewed it as recently as last week or week before last during the Harbor Committee when we walked around the harbor as a whole group and identified opportunities for improvement. That pole is certainly one of them. My oldest two children came home over the last weekend, one from West Africa, the other one from South Carolina with his wife, in order to attend another daughter's wedding. And I grabbed those kids while they were all dressed up in their clothes and took them down to Andre and took pictures of them. And I too figured out how to get that picture without the pole in it. So
Yeah, it's hard though.
we're on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay, appreciate it.
Phil, right here.
Oh, I just have a brief comment. I'm Philip Lewis. I live on Beauchamp Point, there for about 16 years. I do have governmental experience. I sat exactly where you guys are sitting for a number of years in a community down in Texas. We had a little different format than what you guys are kind of shackled with. I think one of the biggest problems in Maine is the way they finance public education. It just baffles me. Nobody in this room can do anything about it. Your citizens have to do something about it. Your legislature's got to do something about it. But when your state promises to pay 55% of structure and doesn't even come close to that and hasn't for ages, something's wrong. When they hand you a tax bill without any responsibility for it, something's wrong. That 67% should be a line item. It ought to have, they have to set their own mill rate. They ought to also have to raise their own money. Let me tell you, they'd fix it a little quicker. I don't know why they don't get this straightened out, but we've got a former legislator back here that might comment for me.
We've been trying.
Yeah, that's
Why
been
doesn't
discussed.
it- Maybe, is there a municipal league where all you towns meet
Yes.
and discuss things?
Mm-hmm. And
Something like the municipal league, if every single municipality said, this is broken, we've got to fix it,
Mm-hmm.
it might get done. But you've got to make that effort, and somebody's got to step up and be a leader. But that's what's wrong with the state. And it comes down to the city, and you guys have to apologize for that 67%. You ought not to even be raising it.
I think Joan probably can answer the question, but I believe that has come up before the legislature a few times, and it never goes anyplace. And the municipal we do have a municipal league, municipal association, and it comes up periodically and goes no place.
Fix it.
Yeah.
We can't fix it.
Yeah, it has come up time and time again.
Joan, you want to introduce yourself?
Excuse me, Joan Welsh. I live in Rockport. And I'm a former legislator. I was a legislator for 8 years. The problems are there isn't enough revenue in the state to cover all the needs of the state and include that 55%. That's always been the argument, that the Appropriations Committee has X number of dollars to deal with because of the tax base, and Now, I would say if more of you lived in the state and contributed to the individual income tax, which we have tried to lower.
What about splitting out the
But
education line?
I do agree that we must meet that mandate. It's a mandate that we continue to not meet. And I think there's a lot of support for that at the state level, in the legislature. It continues to be a struggle, and it has to do with the overall amounts of revenues in the
What
state.
about the concept of having the schools raise their own taxes and set their own mill rates?
I don't know about that.
I mean,
I'm
it
sorry.
puts pressure on them
Yeah.
instead of handing them a bill.
Yeah, I wasn't on the education committee. I don't know if that's ever come up. I haven't heard that discussed at the state level.
Phil, one thing we are looking at, I have no idea if this will be legal or will come to anything, but at least for the town of Rockport, I was talking with the tax assessor last week, and we are going to see if we can split out the school portion of the bill and at least send it separately from the town portion. It'll still come to us and everything, but I think it makes more of an impact on people if they receive a separate bill, that's purely for education. Because sure, you can drill down on your statement and figure it out, but and if we could do that, it would be a small first step. It's not going to solve the problem, but at least it'll heighten awareness.
I think anything that we can do to continue to put the pressure on the legislature is important. So could I just say one brief thing about the library, because that came up before in terms of taxes? I would just say that the effort underway that I hope all of you do know about, and several of you here are already a part of it, we are trying to raise private funds to support the building of the new library so that it does not lie on the tax base for the citizens. I think the bond will be $1.5 million. We're trying to raise $2 million. So that is one way of trying to avoid adding dollars to the tax base. A quick plug for our library efforts.
Maybe now would be a... Yes, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me? I'm Kathy Morrill, and I think I came to the wrong meeting. I was invited, but this is a whole different discussion than I thought we would have. I own a business in Rockport, and so but I live in Hope. So as a business owner, I can't vote in Rockport about the things that affect my business. Now, I'm a person from away, so that's okay. But I think that people need to understand that there are things that need to be happening to make sure that the business owners that can't vote for what needs to happen for code enforcement, for anything to enhance their business. Nobody's going to build $1 million house where State of Maine cheese is, where my beautiful building is. They're going to be on the water. I appreciate that. We want to have Rockport be beautiful. I love that. That's why we built a beautiful building. But all of the commercial space that we have in Rockport is so incredibly vibrant. It goes so far to Rockland, Route 90, everywhere. And that's where a lot of taxpayer dollars come from. And again, a lot of those people do not get a chance to vote about what happens about their businesses because they don't live where they work. I love where I work. I love all the people I had people from Indonesia in my business today. I love what I do. It's so incredibly beautiful place for people to come and live and visit and work. However, we need to be able to listen to what the business community has to say as well.
You're absolutely at the right meeting, and when I looked over the list today, I came to the horrible realization that the list was all individuals and not people that own businesses in Rockport but lived outside of town. And one of the other ideas that I think we're going to realize this year is to do a very similar forum to what we're doing here tonight, except for people that own businesses in Rockport but live elsewhere. So I understand exactly what you're saying, and I was hoping there would be more business owners here tonight, but again, when I looked at the list, it seems like it was directed more at individual people, but we hear you.
And we can't, as business owners, can't do it without the people that come here.
Yeah,
Well,
sure.
and for people that live here, so
Yep.
that's very important to us.
Absolutely. I will say that Deb Hall, who couldn't be here tonight, one of her projects she wants to do over the coming year is to begin to kind of re-energize our Economic Development Committee. And so she may be the one that spearheads the meeting with business owners. But yes, you're at the right meeting. Thank you.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm Sue Kalk, and I live at 245 Union Street. And I would like to make a comment. I'm one of the people who go on the live stream, and I watch a lot of the town meetings, and I have for years since we purchased property here. So even though I can't really make any comments then, I'm going to make some comments now, if you don't mind. I know that the library, I wish you guys had brought some of the audio-visual aids that you sometimes show at the meetings, showing the proposed, the new library building, also the new plan for redirecting traffic at the intersection right out here where the triangle is, because I know that that is, something that you want to do in tandem with the library. I also want to talk about the changing nature of the village, really, with the hotel going in. And also, one thing that concerned me, and this is from a meeting in 2017, and this is when Jamie Franco Mano, who I know is no longer on our planning board here in Rockport, but he's in Rockland, but he was expressing interest in zoning all of Central Avenue commercial and introducing outdoor room streetscapes and middle-of-the-road retail establishments. And I just want some comments from you all, if I could, if that's where you think that the village of Rockport, right in the central area, is going.
It's your meeting.
Well, I know, but
Yeah.
you're one of the selectmen, and I've been doing
No,
all the
thanks.
talking, so, most of the talking.
I'm unfamiliar with what you just spoke with, what Jamie had said, so I can't do
Well,
it justice.
I guess it's just, and I believe that there is a new planning commission where they're going a 5-year plan or something, that every 5 years
The
you all.
Comprehensive Plan Committee?
Yes. And I just, maybe if you could give us some information of what they're leaning to as far as what their plans are for the village area.
Well, I've been the liaison to that committee, so I guess I will end up fielding that question. First of all, let me just say that I think that indeed, the village, in a lot of ways, and I know there's going to be people in Simonton Corner and Rockville and West Rockport that, will castigate me for this, but I think in a lot of ways the village in the harbor is really the jewel in our crown of our town. And I think when it comes to the village, I think we ought to try to develop it in a way that continues with the true village center idea. And this is why I was always such a strong supporter of locating the library in the village center.
Right, right.
The Comprehensive Plan Review Committee got going. Most of you probably don't know, but our current comprehensive plan is dated in 2004. So we're a little bit out of date, but this group has been going through it, and they're just about ready to recommend to us or present to us a scorecard. How have we done on that 2014, 2004 plan? So that's going to be coming up for the select board to look at and take some action on. It's probably not going to require a complete rewriting of the plan. I think there'll be a lot of things that, we just didn't do this, but we should. So, that's sort of my my feeling. Yet I think the Village is a beautiful area, and we just recently we used to have some park benches over at Goodrich Park, which is across the street here. But with the new coffee shop that's in there, and it's frequently crowded, the town has gone out and bought some nice cafe tables with 4 separate chairs, so people can take their coffee out there and sort of sit and commune with each other.
Well, what Jamie, and I know he's no longer with you guys, but he also mentioned that they're looking to zone the other side of Central Avenue commercial.
Okay.
Is that still in the planning stages, or you won't
That-
know that till the
That
planning
would be
board?
just, that was just in some conversation. What, the process for something like that would take place over a period of discussions with the board, and then it goes to the ordinance review committee, and then the planning board. So there's several steps in that. Keeping in mind, the north side of Central Street was commercial. If you look at some of the old photos, there were buildings there, and it was commercial in the past. Whether that actually happened or not, that's still speculation. One of the things with the hotel, though, is the hotel, when the hotel is built, and then the next building, which is next to us here, Mary Lee Park, both of those lots are in what's called the TIF district, which means that the money that comes in that TIF district that is generated from the new captured value on those properties can get turned into improvements in the village. Sidewalks, streetscapes, underground power, some of those things that normally we'd be going to the taxpayers to try to do. I mean, it's still tax money, but it's money that comes from the village, that's generated in the village, and gets turned around and put back into the village, as Doug said, because the village is the moneymaker. It's where a big chunk of our taxes come from is the village, the properties around the harbor. That's the Gold Coast for us.
Right, but
Yeah, and so, we have to protect that and make sure that we're providing, good quality services there.
But the park, Mary Leah Park, that's not part of.
No.
I mean, that's going to be a green space,
Yes,
right?
that'll stay green. It's the property next
Right,
door.
right,
This is
right.
Where the Graffam's houses, the two
Yes,
houses used to
yes.
be. That was purchased by the same developer that is gonna build the hotel. His plan is to build the hotel first. Once that's built, then he'll move to the next property.
And the hotel's going to be next to Mary Leah Park.
No, the hotel is gonna go next to Union Hall.
Thank you, okay.
Let me just put in a word about the library, because again, this is probably the biggest project facing the town, and certainly my colleagues can chip in. But as probably most of you know, that for probably 4 or 5 years, it was a difficult topic. A lot of discussion went on about that. But over the past year, I've seen a real change in the direction the library is going now. We've decided that the library should remain in the town where it is. And again, we sort of view it as part of the iconic, the village. We've had an architect, and we should have thought to bring our drawings. We've had an architect who's developed a very nice plan, which I hope some of you will stop by the town office and look at, that's there. And people have seemed to have rallied around that plan and its program spaces inside. A couple of months ago, we formed a capital campaign committee, which is chaired by Bill Leone, who I think is here tonight, and also by Joan in the back. Our professional consultant is Philip Conkling, who some of you may know sort of got the Island Institute up and running quite a few years ago. Ann Philly is also on the committee. She's been one of our previous librarians, and she's here tonight. Let's see, the other people that are on it are John Veman, Bill helped me out, Peter Ralston, right?
Just turning into
Tate Monroe. So these are the folks that have started the groundwork for the capital campaign. And to put in a plug, they've just gotten started talking to some folks around town. And I guess I'll ask Bill to say a word or two, but it's been absolutely remarkable, the response that we've had. So I'll have
put him
Bill
on
say
the spot.
something here.
Can we sort of like keep on with everybody instead of veering off to the library, or is that?
Yeah, well, this is part of it.
Library's exciting.
It is, but,
Who's
you know,
running this meeting?
all right.
How about the resident?
That's right.
Exactly. Who do we work for? The residents.
Doug, you absolutely promised you weren't going to do this, so this will be very short and sweet. Yeah, we have been very fortunate. We have a terrific team, but more importantly, we've found that the community has been very supportive of this, of our endeavor, and we're in what's called the quiet phase, and we're out actually.
Very quiet now.
Yeah, not quite so quiet. We're out in the community talking to our friends and neighbors about the project, and we have had really great support. We're way ahead of where we thought we would be, and I should give you my telephone number to call me. We'll be calling you, I hope. But anyway, we're making very good progress, and the solution to the library is really our fundraising effort is part of the solution, because we're raising the biggest portion of the funds that are needed to build the library, and there'll be a much smaller burden on the taxpayer. So we're very optimistic that this is going to work and benefit all of us in town. So that's all I have to say.
Great. Thank Bill for the work you do. I did promise folks who are watching online that I would take some of their questions, so let me do one now from Alan Jones, whose family owns a lot of property over on the Beach Hill area, going back many years. He would like to reduce the traffic through residential neighborhoods that are being used as shortcuts by posting speed limit signs, thereby driving traffic onto the main arteries, and he specifically cites Beach Hill Road and Porter Street. We're certainly aware of the speeding that goes on. Local folks know these ways as ways to get around town faster, particularly during the summer. It's an ongoing issue. You may notice some of the roads have gotten fog lines put on them. This has been shown by the Maine DOT to have a traffic calming effect. We'll see if that helps at all. He notes, historically, fishing was allowed from the pier and the floats in Rockport Harbor. Please allow that again. Jeff, you might comment on that, because it was recognized as a problem that it was getting more difficult for folks to bring their kids down to go squidding and fishing for pogies. So we're trying to find space for that.
We are.
Good. Applications for committee service do not require proof of U.S. citizenship, proof of Rockport residency and property ownership, and for the Ordinance Review Committee to require that the applicant to have an understanding and belief in the U.S. Fifth Amendment concerning property rights. And he would like to have us discuss in detail how Rockport will take a conservative approach to protecting property taxpayers from excessive taxes and codes, which I think is what Kathy referred to.
She left.
Okay, which she sort of referred to, and I partly alluded to earlier about our tax discussion that we had. So that was from Alan Jones on Beach Hill.
Don't have any questions online.
My name is Faye Doucette, and I've lived here for about 40 years and moved away to the next town. But my question is very quick. Have any of you been down to Seaview Cemetery and drove the gravel part of the road? It's
Yes.
a real danger, and I wonder if it's gonna be fixed.
Yes. Yes is the answer to both of those questions, yes. Mike and I were down there about 2 weeks ago. I had a complaint that, you're talking about the washouts from the rain? Yeah, Mike and I were down there about 2 weeks ago. It is, you're not exaggerating, it is bad there, and it's in the works of getting that road being rebuilt, hauling in material and putting in some new material in those ruts, because they are pretty significant. They're not like little bumps in the road, they're some significant ruts. Yeah. Yeah,
Thanks
they're-
for being here tonight, Faye, too.
bad.
I appreciate that.
Could you, Doug, maybe you could talk for a second about the 67% and the school?
Bruce Westfall again. We haven't really talked about the 67%, and mention was made that I guess the council has some ability to make some comment to the school board, but if that's the major place where money's going, then what do the citizens do?
Well, I think maybe you misunderstood me, that we really don't have any say to the school board. And in fact, they've not been very welcoming if we dabble on that, but I guess my question sort of to the audience was, and I think maybe Phil answered it, is maybe the council should be a little bit more proactive in looking after that portion of the budget. But again, they're a separately elected board and freestanding.
So to follow up on that just a little bit, one of the challenges for us is in last year's budget process, the school budget went, I mean, and I'm an advocate of education and I'm an advocate of schools, but the challenge for us is that the school budget went up 1.1, almost $1.2 million.
What percent is that?
It's 20, I think it's a 20-something percent.
No.
But the challenge for us is that, and I've seen this, I've been doing this work for 40 years. And what happens is people, what happens at the school end affects your mill rate, it affects your tax rate. But people have a real connection and a strong understanding about what happens in municipal government. And they come to us because we plow the roads, we provide police protection, we provide all of that stuff. And it's understandable, it's manageable, you can wrap your arms around it, you can understand it. It's easy to look at to the town. The challenge is that almost $1.2 million, for us to balance that so that your mill rate didn't go up at all, we would have to eliminate the police department and the fire department in order to just make it be even. So, if we're trying to balance what the impact is on the total taxpayer, we're such a small percentage, we would have to make huge cuts in order to get that number down to where you wouldn't feel it, because you're gonna feel it no matter what. So the challenge is that we're trying to balance that, and it's hard. And then if we're trying to balance it and making cuts to the services that you count on, then you're gonna feel the impact of what we do.
Get the schools to set their own mill rate.
Right.
Collect their own money, they'll learn responsibility.
Exactly. I know that it's our assessor.
And you've got some power over that.
Right.
Listen to you, they won't listen to this man.
Right, and it is done by is Joan still here?
Yes.
Yeah, it is done by the legislature, and it's been brought up a number of times, and each time it doesn't get very far. I know it's moving through again. I believe Kerry, our assessor, sits on that committee. I sit on the Legislative Policy Committee, and it can be brought up again. It's a challenge to get the legislation changed. But it doesn't mean that it can't, the Maine Municipal Association can't bring it up yet again, to just.
It's killing you.
Yeah, it makes it very hard. And it's been like that in my whole career, 40 years, it's been that problem.
It sucks the air out of all the projects we want to do, there's no question. There's a question in the back or a statement.
My name is Rick Cowan. My wife Sally and I have lived in, or had a home in southeast Rockport for about 15 years. Just a couple of very quick comments on the library. I know we've talked a lot about that. But number one, those concerned about taxes, from what I've read from the website this morning, the average home valued about $360,000 assessed value would pay about $40 a year under the proposed bond issue, which, as I calculated, is a little less than 11 cents per day. So, not to worry about that issue. Just want to comment on the library itself, and the staff. My wife and I have enjoyed the library for all these years. The staff is outstanding. They should be applauded. They're friendly, helpful, just wonderful.
I realize seeing you, I owe you an email.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm Judy Odell on Spear Street, and the idea came up when the property tax bills go out, if you could reconfigure the format so that the amount of the school tax is shown clearly. Maybe that would make the citizens revolt and at least give the citizens. Well, we're not citizens, but I think that if you showed it as a separate line item, I know in Pennsylvania that the schools, we get a separate school bill and a separate municipal bill, and it, you can kind of see it, but I had no idea. I had no idea it was 67%. So
Yeah.
that was.
Well, I didn't either until I ended up in this position. So, but yes, we hear you, and I think that's something we definitely should look
Can we do
into.
that, Rick?
I don't know. I think our assessor, Kerry has been on top of this for many years. He's been bringing it up and bringing it up and bringing it up, and we haven't had any luck.
Well, we print the bills, though.
But we do.
We print the bills, so. Yeah, yeah. There's no question if.
Just become a fascist for a while. Show 67% of your taxes go to the school, 23%, 7%.
You're asking a lot, John.
I could ask my colleagues too. I mean, what are your thoughts? Is that a good idea or not?
Separating the bills?
Yeah.
Right, or even highlighting the, highlighting the school part in yellow or something.
You can almost leave the format of the bills alone and then just put a comment on the bottom that says 67% of your tax bill goes to this, 7% goes to this, and the other 25 goes to this. That's all people really need to know, I think.
I think you should show 67% and the numerical number. No, I mean, I'm telling you.
I am net neutral on the format of the tax bill.
We did this in Ridgefield, Connecticut.
Mark.
It's, one of the things that we did learn, and I think it ought to be clearly marked as to the percentages and color-coded or however you can do it so people get their attention drawn to the higher numbers versus the rest. Well, one of the things that we found out during this year is that, correct me if I'm wrong, Doug, Rick, Jeff, and all the above, but schools can go and borrow up to 1% of their assessed value, in this case is Camden, Rockport, without voter approval. They could go get 25 million and they don't have to ask anybody. So that's another one of those things that the
That was news to
legislature needs to change. I mean, it was a learning experience for us. So there's a lot of things that could change. I mean, if you take Camden Rockport, $2 billion roughly, 25 million, and they don't even have to ask anybody. So there's a lot of things that could be changed, and I think, it's being mentioned in certain circles that Rick travels in, I think, to try to get that changed, because that's just not good.
How do you make a comment on that?
Nobody sitting here can do it.
No, I mean, that's.
I have a couple comments to make. One is that splitting the bills is the right thing to do, because you increase the responsibility that everybody is undertaking. It shows that the town has what priorities the town has. the rating agencies that will rate your bonds will want to sit down with you and talk to you about, you know, how you contribute, ideas to the process or discipline. And then the second thing I'd like to say is, I think that we all love the harbor, and that's where we came to see and play, and the harbor's filthy. It was rated amongst the worst dirty harbors in terms of fecal count and everything else for the last few years. And I can tell you that you don't want to go in the water when the tide's coming out, because that's filthy. You gotta go 2 miles offshore before you capture the cleanness of the ocean. I want to know, you know, if this is a priority at all, or if we just should have a statement.
I think historically you're correct, but I'm going to let Rick address that because I don't think that's any longer the case, but.
We've done a lot of work. I wish we could do more of trying to track down where the source of that pollution is. But the past 2 years, last year and so far this summer, in spite of the recent event, our numbers, our test numbers, have been significantly lower than they've been in the past. We've done a lot of work to try and, you know, tighten things up. We've done a lot of cammering of our sewer system to find any potential leaks that is getting into our drainage system. And it's into the, where the beach comes out, there's a drain pipe. Where the beach is, there's a drain pipe that comes right there. When they do the testing after a significant rain event, that's when we get a high test number. In recent.
But isn't that number much lower
Lower
than it had
today,
been?
yep.
And in fact, if you look at the most recent test numbers that were done following the accidental discharge of the holding tank by that schooner, we were well below what the state recommends, and Rick can give us those numbers.
About 1/5.
I'm not saying that it couldn't be better, but we've made good progress there, and Jeff may have a comment from the Harbor Committee.
With regards to the Conservation Committee, which I'm akin to, they, as recently as a couple of weeks ago, had a canine up here specifically trained for smelling stuff. And as dogs will do. And there were, and I mean, so there's always, they're always trying to find the problem. And there were a couple of places that they noted to be a problem on a lower level, but yet a problem. So there's always some process going on trying to correct the harbor's issue.
Excuse me, Rick Allen again.
What time's the dinner
In
bell?
connection with odors.
Must be
has-
5:30 on this news.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Excuse me, has anyone noticed a strange odor on the southeast corner of Glen Cove as you go up Warrenton? I've noticed it this year at low tide. We smelled that same sewage odor about 6-7 years ago, and then it went away. I think there was corrective action taken. Might be good to check that area
Yep.
out as well.
Over by where our pump station is?
No, it's just the southeast corner of Glen Cove as you're driving towards Brewster Point on Warrenton.
Oh, I did notice it when we were up there the other day, as a matter of fact. I'll check with Mike again. I do. Going downhill.
We've been here for about an hour and a half now. Are there any other comments online, Rick?
Nothing.
How often do you plan to have these little assemblies?
Well, let's talk about that. You know,
This could be it.
4 to 6 weeks. Are you kidding? That ain't gonna happen.
I don't come up here for meetings.
No, yeah.
Come and listen to the results.
You know, I gotta tell you, I mean, if we could get you group of people to come to the town meeting, we would double the amount of people we have there. I mean, it's a shame. It's a shame that we don't have anybody there. And personally, I would gladly have everybody speak regardless. So,
Well, now,
That's countrywide.
yeah, listen, we do this live stream thing, and it's fairly new for us, but it's getting better all the time. So, you can sit at your computer at home and log in and send questions in here for us to answer. And I don't care whether you're a, non-resident taxpayer, resident, whatever. If you have a question for us, I think the board's going to try to do the best they can to answer it. So, that can go on year-round. We have our meetings every month or twice a month, and, tune in, and once you sign up for the live stream, it'll send you a notice saying there's a select board meeting this coming Monday. Go ahead and sign up, and if, you're sitting around having your cocktail before dinner, watch it and feel free to send in questions. We're, more than happy to try to answer them.
So,
Is there a way that you can just continue to communicate with us as a group?
We like this.
Well, yeah, sure, and, we can do that too. Obviously, there was a problem with some of the lists that we sent out, although, some people got reached. Rick can tell us about, there's been a effort in town to try to get everybody's accurate email address. And I think that's what he's putting right over here. We're trying to encourage everybody in town to sign up with their email.
I also want to mention with the live stream, you don't have to watch that live. You can also play it back.
Good
So
point.
whatever time you have several hours, you
Yeah.
can engage.
And that's a good point for people at home. They may or may not know it. You don't have to watch it live. If you can't sleep at night, you can tune in and watch it. Or if you want to go to sleep at night.
just doing it before or after cocktail hour.
Right.
The live stream is a really important factor for engaging community today. Because people, as I think Phil mentioned, it's a national trend, nationwide, that people are not attending meetings. And that's not Rockport, that's not Maine, it's across the country. With the live stream, the feature that you have, once you go to it, you connect onto it, and as Doug said, it will send you an email to tell you there's a meeting coming up. And then you don't even have to think about it. You just click on that link anytime, and you can watch the meeting. And if you want to yell at the screen, you can yell at the screen. Nobody's going to call you out of order. You can communicate with each other, and nobody's going to call you out of order. And, if I'm watching and there's a conversation going on in the background that we can answer and settle a discussion that's going on in the background, we can do that while the meeting is going on. But it is a great way to engage with the community, particularly for people like yourselves who are here for 4, 5, 6 months of the year, and you may be in other places, and you want to keep track of us and what's going on. You can do that, and you can scroll through the darn town manager's report, because you don't want to hear me drone on about something, and you can go to the places that's most important for you. We're working on trying to get it so that we can have the agenda and the live stream linked together so that you can just click on the agenda item that you want to go to, and it will just take you to that point at the live stream.
Maybe you ought to take a lesson.
Yeah, and then you can see the pieces you want to see.
Take a lesson from some of our national leaders and start tweeting.
Thank you.
I think I'll stay away from that.
Mention the Facebook page.
Oh.
I'm ready to go home.
Okay.
What?
You mentioned.
Oh, sure, I'll mention this. Just for those of us that are not Gen X or millennials, the town does have a Facebook page, and if you wanted to, you could certainly sign up for that, and then you get a feed of all sorts of information that does come. Notices of everything.
Okay, we'll take one more question, and then we're going to wrap up.
I'm Ann Survek. We live in the house directly next door to the Opera House. And I wanted to back up. I'm in the Rockport Garden Club, and I wanted to back up. For many years, I single-handedly planted the triangle in front of the Opera House.
Thank you.
And before that, Enid did, and John and I watered. And I'm very positive to the town, as everybody who showed up tonight. I heard a rumor, and since everyone's together, maybe you could make me relax, because we can see where we live the real true activity of the town. We can see the park, you can see people take walks, you can see people when they come for the Thursday night concert. You really see, as I'm cooking in my kitchen, the beauty of a town center. Someone mentioned that possibly they were going to take parking out of the little park for our library. Is that just a rumor, or is that part of the master plan, having not seen the plan? I feel strongly, I mean, we've played baseball there when the grandkids come, and you see people using it. I would hope there would be a way to still have parking and not lose the park.
We are not going to pave the park. There will probably be some changes to the angles and make it a little more friendlier for parking. There may be a small amount that's lost out of the park, but it's probably going to be put back in the reconfiguration of that intersection. So I hear you. We are not paving the park. We're just hoping to make changes to that whole area that make the parking better, and actually it may make it look nicer.
And leave the trees, so when you come, and
Yes.
we're here 4 or 5 months,
Yeah.
you hear all kinds of things.
Yeah.
And
You don't want to upset my wife.
Stay,
I gathered that.
stay
Well,
tuned.
I'm trying to be
But
positive.
I'm trying to
very
put your
happy you're
mind at
having the
ease.
library. I understand, and
Yeah.
I've seen the traveling puppet shows. I explained that to someone who told me they were taking. I said, that still could park there. We could still have
Oh,
the
yeah.
things happening.
Yeah.
So it's just a minor tweak, right? Good.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
the beauty of city government, everybody has a different button.
Yes, you're
And
right.
it's hard, because you get bombasted with all of this.
I think these
And what
guys
do you
need
do?
a round of applause.
But it's also the Memorial Park, which you can't screw with.
Oh, yeah, I understand that. So unless my colleagues have any questions, I'm going to wrap this up. And again, I want to thank all of you for coming tonight. This has been very gratifying for me, but also, again, thank you for the contribution that you make to the fabric of our town. I think it's just great. So thank you all very much.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.